watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about free agent cornerback Stephon Gilmore. NFL Network actually named Cincinnati the perfect landing spot for Gilmore, right? You got the insiders there at NFL Network, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo, those guys. They kind of were on a panel. Had some other guys, Jeff Chadilla, I do believe I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I am terribly sorry. And Brian Baldinger as well. They kind of went back and forth, and it was actually Chadilla that suggested that Cincinnati be that perfect landing spot for Stephon Gilmore. So we're going to be breaking down what that potentially would look like, Gilmore coming to the great city of Cincinnati, and what the Bengals cornerback room currently sits at right now, as obviously the Bengals kind of neglected that room here this offseason. They were busy with doing a lot of other stuff as well. But before we dive into that, make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. If the Bengals make a signing, we will have a video for you guys here at the channel. The Bengals obviously have made some moves in the recent weeks, kind of some restructures, right? We saw that with Zach Moss's contract and Geno Stone. It feels like it is only a matter of time before we get the news of a Jermaine Pratt release. So the Bengals are going to have some money to work with here where they could make another move, and they still have some roster needs on this roster right now, particularly at that defensive back room, cornerback, and safety. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move. And, of course, we will have a video if that does indeed transpire. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Rapidly approaching 19,000 subscribers here at the channel. All right, so let's talk about Stephon Gilmore. Obviously, he is getting up there in age, right? He's 34 years of age right now, going to be 35 come the NFL season, so he's not nearly the player he once was. But I do think he could still bring a lot of value to this Cincinnati Bengals football team. Obviously, as we'll get into later on today's show, it's a very young secondary, right? You got a lot of recent draft picks in that room. And this is a guy that's a proven veteran, right? He's been around the block, and he has won a lot of football games. And he has done a nice job as he has continued to age. That year he had last year in Minnesota, he was still a lockdown guy. And as Chadilla points out for NFL.com, one of the most intriguing things about Stephon Gilmore as far as just on-the-field performance is how good he still is in man coverage. And if you know anything about Al Golden, you know that Cincinnati is going to be running a lot of man coverage in 2025 and beyond. You saw it a ton at Notre Dame last year, and that certainly could be a nice fit for Gilmore and the Cincinnati Bengals. And also, he's like a coach on the field, right? That's something this Bengals secondary could really use, and a coach in that defensive back room as well. And as I mentioned, obviously not nearly the player he once was, right? This at one point was the best defensive player in the National Football League. He did win NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. And that Super Bowl he was a part of with the New England Patriots, Brady's final Super Bowl, that sixth Super Bowl with New England, he really kind of iced that game, high point in that interception there at the end in the fourth quarter from Jared Goff, and really was incredible for the Patriots that whole playoff run. So he's played in big games. Obviously, that's what Cincinnati hopes to do is continue to play in big games. So I think that would be a good situation, and it's not like you would give him some multi-year deal, right? He would come in on a one-year contract. From his perspective, he's chasing a ring, and I definitely think you could use his services here in Cincinnati. We will talk about how he could potentially fit into this room here in a second. But do you want to sign Stephon Gilmore? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no, and if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Ignore it. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right, so this is what Cincinnati's cornerback room sits at right now. And I do have Dax Hill at that nickel spot. He very well could not be at that spot. You've heard a lot of rumors and rumblings that, hey, Cincinnati wants to make Josh Newton that nickel, kind of taking the shoes of Mike Hilton, and then Dax Hill could be back outside. But I think your three main guys are Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner II, and Dax Hill, with Josh Newton also working his way into the lineup. Let's start here with Dax Hill, right? I think he is the best corner that you have, best defensive back that you have on this football team. I really think he was poised to break out. Last year, those first 5 games were great. Obviously, the Bengals were struggling and not winning through that first 5-game stretch. Then he suffers that injury. I've said multiple times here on the show, if Dax Hill doesn't get hurt, I kind of think Cincinnati makes the playoffs. I think he was playing that well and could have that big of an impact. We'll see. He's had to switch positions around a lot, right? Remember, he came in from Michigan as a safety. Obviously, had played some corner in his past, and then, you're bumping him inside, outside. Maybe they just want to keep him in one spot and not move him into that nickel situation. But Dax Hill, I feel really, really good about him. He's my favorite defensive back on the team, but coming back from a serious injury, we will see if he can kind of return to form that he was in 2024 prior to that injury. Cam Taylor-Britt, your next guy out right now. Of course, he was a high pick a couple of years ago. I think, his first couple of years in the league, it was kind of an upward trajectory, right? And these past couple of years have been shaky, right? You saw Cam Taylor-Britt get benched several times last season, right? Some mental mistakes. Constantly, getting beat there as well. This guy has a lot of talent. He's a tough dude. He can lay the boom on guys, but he has to be better. Look, he's going to be on this team, and he's going to be called upon a lot in this upcoming season for Al Golden. Hopefully Golden can get the best out of him. That's kind of why I really think Cincinnati needs to bring in another corner, because I don't know how much you can trust CTB, but we're all obviously hoping for a bounce-back season. DJ Turner II. You've seen some flashes with him, but his play obviously has been way too inconsistent. He kind of was in a battle with Dax Hill in training camp last year. And I think a lot of people viewed Turner as the favorite going in, and then Dax Hill absolutely blew that competition out of the water. But then with some injuries, DJ Turner did find a lot of playing time last year. And I think he was playing his best football actually in that Charger game in which he suffered that broken clavicle. So that's another guy coming back from injury. Another guy, top-of-the-line draft pick. I believe he was a second-rounder a couple of years ago. Bengals need to get a lot out of DJ Turner here going forward. He certainly could benefit from a Stephon Gilmore signing. Another guy that could probably benefit the most out of a Stephon Gilmore signing is Josh Newton. Your rookie out of TCU last year. He had his number called upon because guys were getting hurt, and I thought he did a good job of holding up. Was he great? No, but he was a later-round pick. Believe fourth or fifth rounder for Cincinnati, and he wasn't necessarily expected to come in and play a lot. Guys get hurt, and he had to. But I think Cincinnati really likes what they have in Josh Newton. I think Al Golden likes what he has in Josh Newton. He can develop into a guy that can really be a solid piece for you defensively. The maturity there from Stephon Gilmore coming in, mentoring a guy like Josh Newton, I think really could go a long way. And you get to the bottom of this room here. You got Marco Wilson, right? He's coming back on a one-year deal for the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of surprised you picked him up in the middle of the year from New England. He was a third down guy for you, but he's probably going to make this football team as one of your 6 corners. And I don't know if that necessarily is a great thing, but in limited time, I thought he did some good things. And then DJ Ivey, last up here. I really love DJ Ivey for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was your 7th-round pick out of Miami a couple of seasons ago. And he did, he had a smaller role, right? But he also was called upon on third down. He's a really big, lengthy cornerback, and we'll see what his presence looks like in that room going forward. But bottom line, as we go through all those guys, a lot of youth in that room. They could use a veteran to come in and help them. Mike Hilton probably not coming back, right? Still, as of now, not signed. But I think Stephon Gilmore would really love to come to here because he knows he can perhaps win a championship here with Joe Burrow, and there's a lot of youth in this room, and they could really use his presence. We'll continue with some potential other cornerback targets here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals Draft Hats are still available, despite obviously the fact that the NFL Draft is in the rearview mirror here at this point. They've got some really cool ones up there on Fanatics. Also have other kinds of draft gear there as well, so really encourage you guys check that out. That is chatsports.com/Bengals Draft Hats. We will put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. So once again, make sure you check that out, chatsports.com/Bengals Draft Hats. A couple of cornerbacks. Other cornerbacks let's talk about before we get out of here on today's show. Asante Samuel Jr., he's probably that next guy that's kind of at the top of the list as far as, cornerbacks that are still available, right? Completely different than Stephon Gilmore in the sense of his age, right? He's only, been in the league for 4 years, had a lot of high expectations coming in, suffered a pretty significant shoulder injury, and I think that probably is the main reason he has not been signed at this point. Not sure what kind of a contract he is going to garner, but could also be an option for Cincinnati. But still a lot of youth and inexperience there. Not sure the Bengals need another youthful guy like that in this room. Name another player you want to sign. Again, I think Cincinnati's going to make a move here, whether it be in the defensive back room or perhaps maybe another offensive lineman. But I think we will see another signing here before training camp. Name a player you want Cincinnati to sign for me in the comments of today's show. Rasul Douglas, I've always been really high on Rasul Douglas, right? I think most people really remember him the most from his time in Green Bay. Was there from 21 to 23, but early in his career, he was a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, was actually a part of that Super Bowl when Nick Foles and company took down Tom Brady. Bounced around the league for a little bit. Past couple of years has been with Buffalo. Certainly hasn't looked as good as he did in Green Bay. But I really love his football character, his maturity, and I think that's another veteran guy, 30 years of age, for Rasul Douglas that could come in and help this room. James Bradberry, not quite as high on James Bradberry, right? He is 31 years of age. He spent a lot of time with Carolina, a couple of years with the New York Giants, and most recently with the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously was a Super Bowl champion. He is still on the open market. Perhaps could be a guy that could come in and help Al Golden's defense. And this last guy here on this list is a very familiar name, obviously, in Mike Hilton. Hasn't been signed yet. Based on his comments on social media, on Twitter, it felt like a couple of months ago he basically was like, yeah, we're moving on. Appreciate Cincinnati for everything they did, but probably not going to be back. Well, he still hasn't signed yet. So, perhaps there's a chance that both these teams, or both these sides, Mike Hilton and the Cincinnati Bengals, want to reunite for another season in 2025. I am not sure, but obviously there's continuity, among the guys that are currently in this room right now for the Cincinnati Bengals. And this Bengals front office hasn't been hesitant to, keep some of the guys that we thought maybe were going to leave, right? B.J. Hill, most notably, obviously coming back on a 3-year deal. So I guess there still is there's still a chance that Mike Hilton could come back. I would be surprised / borderline shocked, but did want to throw him on this list as well.